end of the webinar. All right, and then some other things in this list are the number. My mouse is messing us up. There we go. Another thing in this list is the number of unique computers or C blocks and IP addresses. Now, one of the ways that Google is able to figure out whether or not you're hosting a number of websites from the same server and seeding backlinks back to your website using those hosted websites is by taking a look at the IP address of that website. And this may be a little bit too technical for most, but basically it's very easy for Google to take a look at the third set of characters in an IP address and realize, okay, this website is on a completely different C block, therefore I'm going to pass more domain authority through it, or this website is on the same C block as another website linking, so I'm not going to pass quite as much domain authority through it. The number of unique linking websites, that means websites that have unique domain names, and then the sheer number of external backlinks. Part 2, anchor text. Now this is something we're all very familiar with. This was a huge issue last year. If you recall, Penguin came out last year in 2012, and then this year Penguin 2.0 came out. Both of those releases were algorithm changes by Google that had the sole purpose of trying to identify and de-index web-based spam. Now, one of the ways that they did that was by taking a look at anchor text. Anchor text is the text that is used to create a hyperlink from one website to another. So if you take a look at this page, this blue text right here, when I hover over it, the words that say this is anchor text is obviously anchor text. Now, the reason that Google takes a look at that anchor text is because they sometimes try to figure out what the destination website is about by reading the anchor text. So if I have anchor text that says Seattle hotels, Google has a fairly good idea that the destination is going to be a website about Seattle hotels. And so therefore, Google will likely try and rank that website for the phrases Seattle hotels. But people figured this out and started to abuse the anchor text, and so Google has sort of steered away from giving that much relevance to anchor text. Now, even though that has been the prevailing wisdom for the past year, research shows that Google still allows exact match anchor text to pass a great deal of domain authority. Now, I'm going to be talking about 3 specific studies that I am summarizing in this webinar. One by Moz.com, one by Searchmetrics, and another one by Netmark. And all of these 3 studies, they used their own methodology to judge the ranking factors of some of the best ranking websites on the internet. And each of them came up with some different conclusions. And the reason this is a problem is because some of these studies say that exact match anchor text is on the decline, that fewer websites are using it, and some other studies say, well, exact match anchor text is still fairly visible in many of the websites that are ranking well on Google. So then that leaves us in the awkward place of saying that exact match anchor text is good and also bad. Instead of saying that, we're saying that exact match anchor text is dangerous, but it still works. So this pie chart is my attempt at showing you what a great backlink anchor text profile will look like. When Google takes a look at all of the backlinks in the world that are pointing to your website, they're going to digest and categorize all the anchor text of all of those websites. And they're going to split those anchor text into categories. Exact match anchor text is the exact keyword you're trying to rank for, Seattle hotels. Branded anchor text is just your hotel brand, myhotel.com, my great hotel brand name, etc. Partial match anchor text is some text that might have your keyword in it, but it's not an exact match. So for example, the anchor text could be, click here to learn more about Seattle hotels. The entire anchor text isn't the exact word, but it does have the word in it, so we call that partial match. And then this blue section of the pie chart is just to represent a random assortment of other anchor text in your backlinks. Now, when Google takes a look at all of these all of the anchor text and all of these backlinks, if they find that over 50% of your backlinks have exact match anchor text, then that's a huge red flag that you've probably gone out and paid somebody to link to your website and told them to use a particular keyword for their anchor text. And that is something Google will penalize you for. However, if you have between maybe 15 to 20% of all of your backlinks have exact match anchor text, you're probably safe. If you have another 15% in partial match anchor text, you're probably safe. The safest anchor text for your property is your brand name. Now that could take the form of your actual domain name, www.myhotel.com, or it could be your brand name. For example, the brand name for buuteeq is buuteeq, right? If we were to go and create links back to our website, we would use anchor text like hotel website design, hotel software, stuff like that. But instead, many people link to us with either click here, which would fit in the other category, or buuteeq, which is our brand name. And Google realizes that our brand name is buuteeq, and so they're going to say that that anchor text is relatively safe. Branded anchor text is probably the healthiest and safest anchor text that you're going to be able to have. Here are two real-world examples. Now, I used a free tool called Ahrefs to generate these two pie charts. There's a paid version of Ahrefs. I don't have any relationship with them. I just like the tool and I use it. The left pie chart represents the backlink profile for a hotel here in Seattle called the Edgewater. The right pie chart shows the anchor text backlink profile of one result on TripAdvisor. Now, if we take a look at the right profile, we see this huge blue chunk has exact match anchor text that says Grand Canyon National Park Hotels. That is an exact match of the keywords they're trying to rank for. This dark blue section is another exact match keyword, Grand Canyon National Park Hotels. We have to wait until we get to the green section before we find an actual URL, tripadvisor.com, but the red is exact match, Grand Canyon National Park Hotels. The light blue is exact match, Grand Canyon National Park Hotels, with different capitalizations. So you can see that this particular backlink profile is almost solely comprised of exact match anchor text. This means that TripAdvisor is probably paying for SEO. But since it's TripAdvisor, they're not being penalized. TripAdvisor is one of those rare websites that has such a prominent brand signature online. Their thumbprint online is so huge that they're, quote, too big to fail. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule. There are companies that are not too big to fail, like JCPenney, for example, that got penalized severely by Google when they were caught doing black hat tactics. But the thing is that when big websites use black or gray hat tactics to boost their SEO in the past, and then they move to gray hat or white hat SEO in the future or today, they've already established a huge presence for themselves online, and now they actually are a genuine destination website. TripAdvisor is a real place where real people go. Google has all of the analytics for how long people stay at tripadvisor.com, the bounce rate for most of the pages on tripadvisor.com. And they know that TripAdvisor is a genuine destination that people go to. So even though they have a very unnatural anchor text backlink profile, they're not going to get penalized, which is why they still rank well. However, if a very small hotel or inn had an exact match anchor text backlink profile that looked like this, I can guarantee you that they're not going to rank very well, because this is a huge red flag at Google. Alternatively, if you take a look on the left-hand side, this is the exact match anchor text backlink profile for the Edgewater, which is a very famous hotel here in Seattle where the Beatles once stayed at. This huge blue chunk right here is simply the Edgewater. And that's perfect. That's their brand name. We want to see that much anchor text for their brand name. This dark blue segment is the Edgewater Hotel. Again, another branded anchor text right here. Then we have the Edgewater Hotel here in green, and only until we get to this red section right here that says Seattle Hotels, only then do we actually find exact match anchor text. And the rest of all of these slivers are a combination of the domain name and other branded anchor text. So these guys have around 10% of their backlink profile is exact match anchor text, and they're the #1 result for Seattle hotels and many other Seattle-based queries. And so this is a great healthy example of a backlink profile. Now I bring this up because this is still one of the things that's going to be important in 2010. We talked about it in 2012 that exact match anchor text is going to be dangerous. I just brought this up for this particular webinar because I wanted to show the difference that yes, exact match anchor text is still dangerous, but in some instances it still can work very well. So it's okay to use it in moderation. That's the point. Part 3, content. Google judges the rank position by backlinks and query appearance by content. Let me break that down a little bit. So Google is going to decide how high up on the list to rank your website based on the quality and diversity of your backlinks, as we talked previously. However, once they've decided how high they'd like to rank you, they then have to decide, well, in what category am I going to rank them? What series of search engine queries am I going to list this website in? And they judge that based primarily on your website content. Now, not all content is created equal. Google tends to preference long-form content. Long content is going to be between 500 and 600 words. In fact, for most of all of the websites that were within the 3 spots on Google that these studies studied, they all had between 500 and 600 words on the content. There were no high-ranking web pages that had 100 words or 50 words or only 200 words. It is clear that Google likes to rank content that is long. But in addition to that, Google likes to rank content that is quality. It reads well, it's interesting, it's not just chock full of keywords, but it's got multimedia, it's got video, it's got appropriate links to relevant websites, it's got maps, it's high quality content that is long. So focus on quality. I summarized this in this little snippet. Website content should be long, between 500 to 600 words, and should include the appropriate keywords close to the top of the page. Google likes seeing keywords at the top of the page. The keywords should be included in the meta title, the meta description, and in H1 and H2 tags. So this chart to the right, I did it again, I'm sorry about that. Here we go. This chart to the right shows the anatomy of a high-ranking article. And this is taking data from all 3 studies, and I broke it down in a pie chart for you. The #1 indicator that the content is going to be quality and that Google is going to rank it is that its length. The longer the better. That's this light orange section here. This dark orange section at the bottom is the keywords that appear in the article body copy. Now we're not talking about stuffing as many instances of the keyword in the article as you can. We're talking about, does the keyword even appear, right? Obviously Google can't rank your article for the keywords you want it to rank for if the keyword doesn't even appear in the article. So make sure that it's in the article maybe 3 or 4 times. If you have a long article, like it's 500 to 600 words or 700 words, maybe 8 times. You know, not a whole lot, but just make sure that it appears. This mustard color slice right here is your keyword in the article meta title. It's still very important for your keyword to appear in the title. And it should be closer to the beginning of the title if possible, by the way. This light blue section is keyword in the article meta description. Even though Google doesn't rank your website based on your meta description, one of the correlations to high-ranking websites is that they've taken the time to write a meta description that's less than 150 characters long and that it includes some of the keywords. This is nice because when people Google something, if you have the keyword in your meta description, Google's going to automatically bold that keyword so it's going to stand out in the search engine result page. This darker blue section is keyword in the article H1 tag, and this very dark navy blue section at the top is keyword in the article H2 tag. Neither of these are super important, but if you have the time, they help. So to sum up this section, I'm going to say shorter, faster, visible. Even though we like long content, we want meta titles to be as short as possible. One of the indicators of one of the correlations of all of the best ranking websites was that they had fairly short meta titles. Now we're going to be tempted to write a huge, long meta title that has all of our keywords in it, like Seattle bed and breakfast, dash, Seattle hotels, dash, Seattle hotel by the market, right? That would be a very long meta title that incorporates all of our keywords that we're trying to rank for. But instead, we want one keyword, we want that in the title, and we want it as close to the beginning of the title as possible, and to make that meta title fairly short. Another great indicator in terms of content for websites that rank well is interlinking. Interlinking is when you go on your website and you create links in your articles to other articles on your website. Now, if you're a boutique client, many of you are going to have a good interlinking information architecture already, because the navigation that we've created at the top or on the side already has an interlinking structure to many of your important pages. But it's also important to actually create hyperlinks within your article content to other important pages on your website. And I'll show you at the very end, but many of the studies break down how important each of these are, and interlinking was fairly important. That's something that I wouldn't have guessed. I didn't think it was very important before I did this study, but apparently it is. Title keyword location, as we talked earlier, the closer to the beginning of the title your keyword is, the better, the higher it'll rank. The shorter the title, the higher it'll rank. And the faster your website loads, the higher it'll rank. All of these things were correlated to higher rankings on Google. I'm going to pop open this questions tab here just to take a look at some of the questions we have going on here. All right, looks like we have a good assortment of questions. Awesome, great. I love these questions. I'm going to get to them at the end. Keep them coming, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll be sure to take care of them. All right, part 4, domain considerations, right? We all have domain names for our hotels. myhotel.com, seattlehotels.com, etc. So what about purchasing a domain name is important? What should we be thinking about when we create domain names for our websites? And if we have a bad domain name, should we go and purchase a new one and have a complete site restructure? Let's dive into this a little bit. Branded domains are best. It used to be that exact match domains were best. This was prevalent wisdom for many, many years. In fact, I myself would recommend to people that if they could get an exact match domain, this was great. But that was the world of SEO in 2011. We now live in a world of SEO where exact match domains can hurt you. Now, they don't always hurt you. If I was the owner of SeattleHotels.com, I would have done excellent a few years ago. Today, not so much. SeattleHotels.com is not on the first page of results for the phrase Seattle Hotels. And the reason for that is because Google has penalized exact match domains. Now that said, if you have an exact match domain, I wouldn't jump on a horse and go and buy a new domain and do a site restructure and 301 redirect all your previous links to your new landing pages. I wouldn't do that quite yet, because it's still possible for exact match domains to rank well if, and here's the key point, if your website content is quality content. It's got a lot of multimedia, it's long, there's a lot of backlinks to it, it's engaging. Now, the exact match domain is not going to help you as much as it did in the past, but it might help you a little bit. This is another issue where many of the studies that I examined disagreed with each other. 2 of the studies said that exact match domain names can actually hurt you. One of the studies said that an exact match domain name can actually help you. And I think that's just an endemic of the environment where we live in, where right now in terms of SEO, where exact match anchor text is dangerous for new websites that haven't established themselves yet. But exact match domain names are okay for older websites that have a long history. I think that is where it breaks down. Website domain names should be as short as possible. The reason for this, obviously, is that as time goes on, all of the short domain names are going to get eaten up. And so Google, if they see a short domain name, they know that that domain has existed longer, and since it's still online, it's more likely that that content is going to be able to be trusted because it's been online for a very long time. Also, with short domain names, they can almost virtually guarantee that you're not trying to keyword stuff into your domain name. myawesomeseattlehotel.com. Okay, that's a huge domain name. You're obviously trying to stuff the word Seattle Hotel into your domain name. probably not a very high quality domain name. The shorter the domain name, the possible. Only include keywords in your domain name where appropriate. If it's part of your brand name, then including keywords in the domain name is probably going to be okay. If it's not part of your brand name, then it's probably not the best idea. Again, don't run off and change your domain names after hearing this webinar just because you have an exact match domain name. If it's working for you, all right. If you're already getting traffic to your website, then don't change it. It's only if you're not indexed, if you're not getting search engine traffic, and you have an exact match domain name that you might want to consider changing it. Here's the breakdown that I was talking about earlier. This top bar, this top chart right here is from the search metrics study that I referenced, and this is the difference between 2013 and 2012. So when they did this study a year ago, they saw that a keyword in the domain name was a great indicator that the website was ranking well, and that was this particular bar at the bottom, including this dark orange section. In 2013, that is reduced all the way down to this tiny sliver of peach color right here. That means that in 2013, having a keyword in the domain name is less of an indicator that the website is going to rank well. Now, it's a little bit different for URLs. If you have a keyword in the URL, like say it's myhotel.com/Seattle Hotels, it's not in the domain name, but it is in the URL, it's still possible that your website can get a great deal of benefit from that. Now, not as much as last year. As you can see, it's declined a little bit, but having the keyword in the URL is still a fairly good idea. And then the Moz study at the bottom breaks down many of the URL attributes that were correlated to a high rank. At the very bottom, Moz says that exact match domains are still the highest correlated factor to a high ranking website. They then say that, the peach color down here at the very bottom is that your website ends in .com. Having the top level domain of .com is still one of the best indicators that your website is going to rank well, because .com domain names are becoming more rare and more rare over time. If you can snag a .com domain name that's short, you're probably going to be doing very well with that domain name. Now, if you have a .org or a .net, don't worry about it. Those are still going to be fantastic top level domains, but .com still correlates to higher rankings. Exact match domains, according to Moz, also correlate to higher rankings. Don't know what happened there. My computer went spazzy. Partial match domains correlate to higher rankings, but not very much. And domains that are very long, or URLs that are very long, had a significant decline in its ability to rank well on Google. So even though these slightly disagree, we still know that having very long domain names is a bad idea. Very long URL structure is a bad idea. Having keywords in your domain name is going to be okay in some circumstances, but branded domains are the best idea. Section 5. We're doing good. It's 10:35 according to my clock, which means we have a little over 30 minutes and we're over halfway through. That's great. It's going to give me a great opportunity to answer your questions. Keep the questions coming. I'm happy to answer them. Section 5 on social media. This is going to surprise many of you. It surprised me. Social votes correlate to higher search rankings. This didn't used to be the case, right? This time last year, people were saying, well, Google +1s are great, but they don't really make your site rank very well. And, well, Facebook likes are nice, but it's not really a high indicator of a high-ranking website. In 2013, that is not the case. Web pages with more Facebook likes and shares, Twitter tweets, and Google +1s invariably rank higher than websites with fewer. This is one section where every single study I checked agreed. And let me show you here. So here's the Netmark study, the Moz study, and the Search Metrics study stacked on top of each other. Now, the results vary a little bit, but they only vary by degree of impact. They completely match in terms of the message. All social media will help your website rank. Tweets, +1s, likes on Facebook, and shares on Facebook all correlate to a higher ranking website. You get less of a benefit from Twitter tweets. Netmark says it's almost tied with Facebook likes and shares. Moz says that it's far less than all three, and Search Metrics says that it's a little bit less than Facebook likes and shares. But all of them say that the least important one is Facebook. Next, this will surprise you, Facebook. Facebook comes in second. Even though Facebook likes and shares are important, and even though they will help your website rank, they're second to Google+. Google Plus is the clear winner when it comes to social media votes that will help your website rank. This is shocking to me. This means that Google has created a social network, Google Plus, and that those who participate with Google Plus will rank higher in Google search for their websites than those who don't. This is amazing. So this means we need Google Plus profiles, or we need Google Plus business pages. We need the Google Plus One button integrated on every single page of our website so that we can give guests the opportunity to cast their social vote by plus oneing your website. Search Metrics found a 0.4 correlation to high-ranking websites that have Google Plus. It's an amazing statistic. And I'll have more of those charts at the very end, which I'm getting to right now. So for your reference, here's section 6. For your reference, I included the final results from all 3 of these studies. Spot the differences and note the similarities. I came up with a summary of these 3 studies that impact 2013 in this report. I encourage all of you to go to those 3 studies, which are linked in this presentation, and then just examine them for yourself. See the results for yourself. Some of them have gates on them where you have to sign up for a newsletter or something in order to get them, but they're worth it. They have some great data. Here's the Search Metrics study, and here's the summary of their correlation study. Social votes are a close first, followed by backlink number and diversity. Internal factors are half as important as external. That's the conclusion of Search Metrics. And we see that number 1 at the very top is Google Plus One. Number 2 is Facebook shares. Tied with Facebook shares is your number of backlinks. Let's think about that for a little bit. According to Search Metrics, they're saying that in 2013, it's equally as important to have Facebook shares, people sharing your content on Facebook, as it is to have backlinks pointing to your website. That would not have ever been a conclusion anyone would have made in 2012, let alone 2011 and 2010. But in 2013, social media has become so important that it's tied with backlinks. That's amazing. So after backlinks, we have the entire gamut of social media. We've got all of Facebook combined, Facebook comments, Facebook likes, Pinterest pins, and Twitter tweets. These are all in yellow. Backlinks are in dark blue. Correlations related to backlinks are in dark blue. Obviously, the highest correlation related to backlinks is the sheer number of backlinks, followed by the percentage of backlinks that you have that are rel equals no follow. That means that people who have linked to your website but have put the attribute no follow, which means that they don't want to pass the domain authority to you, and the SEO visibility of the backlinking URL. Obviously, a website that ranks very well on search is going to have a stronger backlink to your website than a website that doesn't rank very well in search. And all of these other ones are internal characteristics, for example, keyword in the links, keywords on the body, the word count of the article, and I'll let you examine these metrics after the webinar. I'll go ahead and email it out to all of you probably about an hour after the webinar. The next one, this is the Moz study. They didn't really break it down in as much detail as Search Metrics, but they give you some nice things to think about. They broke down in a pie chart all of the important correlations to ranking high. And the number 1 is, of course, the domain level authority link metrics. And that's a fancy way of saying the power and authority and trust of all of the websites linking to your website. The domain authority. How powerful is that .com domain, that .org domain, etc. This pink section on the right here is the page level link metrics. That means how powerful is the actual page that's linking to your website, regardless of the domain of that website. How trusted is that page that links to you? And then this green section at the bottom is page level keyword and content based. That's going to be the content and keywords on that page. So this, for over 25%, I'd say what, about 40% right here is going to be backlinks. And then they start to dive into on-page issues like the content of your website, the keywords on your website, co-citations, and things like that. This particular study doesn't mention social media until around here, this kind of lavender purplish slice to the left, that is where Moz places social media. Now, I'm not sure why there's such a huge disagreement between search metrics, which places social media so high at the very top here, and then a Moz, which places social media as a tiny sliver over here. But that's the difference, and so we'll leave it to you guys to figure out or to decide for yourselves. But here's the final one. This is the Netmark study, and we do see that when social media is mentioned, Google Plus is the one that's mentioned. Now, even though the Moz study is saying that social media is not a huge part of your correlation for ranking well, when they do talk about social media, they talk about it as being very important, and they talk about Google Plus as being first. Here, the Netmark study is in agreement with that. When they do talk about social media, they talk about Google Plus as being first. In this particular top 10 list from Newmark, they don't even mention Facebook. Here we are talking about social media in 2013, and we're not even mentioning Facebook. Who would have guessed that that would have ever happened? So Netmark is actually saying that having an exact match domain name linking, that having an exact match domain name for your website is the highest correlation to ranking well on Google. That flies in the face of the other two studies that said quite the opposite. So that is it for this particular webinar. I'm going to go ahead and dive into your questions. I'm really eager to share this document with you. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. And I encourage you all to check out the links to the other websites and the other reports that I've included in this document so that you can see the evidence for yourself. All right, I'm just going to go down this list and start reading what you fellows have. David asks, B&Bs have no too few natural sources of backlinks. The only way for me to get backlinks is to request them, and it's solely for the purpose of satisfying Google SEO. So are B&Bs supposed to get in an arms race for good quality backlinks just so Google will rate them well? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, hey, I hate that reality, right? I mean, we're hoteliers. Our job and our career path is to manage an amazing hotel, make it great for our guests, and give them a wonderful experience, not to sit down and just generate all these backlinks. But when it comes to marketing, that's kind of what is necessary. Now, I'm going to throw a caveat into that. One of the things that Matt Cutts, who's the web spam lead of Google, will often say is that we tend to think about backlinks in the reverse order. We start thinking, okay, my website needs to rank, therefore I need backlinks, therefore I'm going to go out and pay somebody in India $50 to generate 1,000 backlinks for me. When that thinking is actually flipped, what we should instead be thinking about is this. Google, I need to rank well on Google. Google likes high quality. More people are going to link to me if my website has high quality content. Also, Google loves to see active communities. I'm more likely to get linked to if I'm in an active community. So instead of focusing on gaining backlinks, if it were me and if I owned a hotel and if I were trying to increase its presence online, I would start making friendships with other local businesses in my area. I wouldn't start link exchanges, but I would offer their promotions on my website. They can offer my promotions on their website. I would create maybe a tour package with a local tour guide, or maybe I would have a special menu available only at my hotel for some of the restaurants nearby. I would try to think creatively. I would basically just start some traditional marketing tactics to try and engage with the local businesses in my area, so that they'll link to me, and then I might link to them. I would reach out to local travel bloggers or local photographers. I recently went through the backlink profile of a hotel here in Seattle, and some of the most powerful backlinks that website had were from local wedding photographers who took photos in their area. And this was important for them because a lot of the wedding photographers would create links to their hotel and say, well, I'm just a photographer, but if you're looking for a venue for your wedding, check out this hotel. They have a beautiful yard, or they've got an amazing view and stuff like that. A wedding photographer, right? And those were some of the most powerful backlinks that particular website had. So it takes thinking creatively, thinking outside the box, not going out there just to get backlinks because those don't help anymore, but going out there to form relationships, to form partnerships, which as a natural consequence will generate high quality backlinks, which do work. Melody says, Melody asks two questions. Number one, what kind of sites should we be linking to? And number two, what is the best way to ask another site to link to you on their website? I answered that second one just now. I hope that satisfied that particular query. But for the first one, what kind of sites should we be linking to? That's a great question. And it actually does have a lot to do with domain authority. So whenever you link to another website, you're basically slicing off a sliver of your website's domain authority and giving it to that recipient website. So for websites who have thousands of links pointing to other websites in the world on every single page of their website, they tend to lose PageRank over time. Their domain authority seeps out from their website to all of the websites that they're linking to. And that could potentially harm them over time. Now that said, we don't want to be stingy, right? We want community, we want to form relationships, and some of the best ways to form relationships is to link to them, to say, I love this business, these are great local people near to me, I'm going to give them my stamp of approval and link to them. So, but when it comes to the kinds of websites that you link to, make sure that they're focused on your industry. Link to restaurants, travel blogs, photographers, anything and everything that's possibly related to the hospitality industry, to travel, to local businesses, to tourism, to that sort of thing. If you're constantly linking to like mining tool manufacturing websites or things like that are completely unrelated, that's kind of going to be, Google's going to take a look at that and go, okay, why is this hotel website linking to mining manufacturing tools? I mean, this doesn't make any sense. And it's probably not going to help you very much. So when you do link to people, make sure that you're linking to people who are in your niche. All right, Tom asks, when optimizing for multiple category keywords like bed and breakfast, accommodation, and guest house, are we better putting them all on the page with the most authority, the home page, or should we create multiple different landing pages, each one optimized differently for each category and keyword? For example, one page for B&B Heathrow and another for accommodation Heathrow. Yes, that's a great idea. Now Google is getting better and better at identifying euphemisms, so to speak, or synonyms and tying them all together. So if you're ranking very well for a hotel in Heathrow, you're probably going to be ranking fairly well for accommodations in Heathrow. Now you may not be ranking for every single page, or you may not be ranking as well as you do for a particular keyword, and that's why your suggestion is actually a really good one. What I would do is for my home page, I would focus on one thing. I want my home page to rank for one particular keyword, and this is going to be your money word. This is the keyword that is most important to you. But then also on your home page, I would link out to the other pages that I'm really wanting to rank for. And then you could go ahead and create an article and title it Accommodations in Heathrow. And then make sure that when you're writing your article that it's not just a copy and paste of another article that you wrote that's targeting a different keyword. That new article that you're writing to capture the keyword accommodations in Heathrow, it needs to be high quality. It also has to have photography and video if you have it. It needs to be between 500 and 600 words long. It needs to be a high quality piece of literature that is going to be useful for whomever finds it. Now, while you're writing that, if you happen to be able to optimize it for a particular keyword, like accommodations in Heathrow, then great. You're a fantastic writer. You got this down pat. But anyway, yes, your strategy of making a unique article page for every single keyword that you're hoping to rank for is actually a very good strategy. David says, how does one control what text other sites use to link to your own? Most of the time, you can't control it. When you do have the opportunity to control it, that's when you would say, okay, here's the anchor text that I would like you to use. But you're asking what situation would you find yourself in when you can control that anchor text? Well, let's say that you're doing a guest blog post, that there's a travel blog in your niche, and you've approached them and you've said, hi, I own a really popular hotel in this particular area. I'm really knowledgeable about many of the things that people can do in this area. I'd like to write an article about my expertise that you can post on your blog. And then in your article, you can create links back to your website that has anchor text in it that you like, or branded anchor text that you think is going to be good. Or when you form those relationships with people in your local community, likely the idea of linking to each other is going to come up. And when that does happen, you can give them some images to link to your website that have great banners. And then underneath the banner, you could have a particular word that says, visit my great hotel at mygreathotel.com, or using whatever sort of exact match anchor text you want. But not too much exact match anchor text, of course. All right. Melody asks, I'm going to see if I can put some of these together. All right, Melody asks, what is more important, to include anchor text that links to external websites or internal websites? You would want to link to, okay, so for SEO purposes, when it comes to increasing the likelihood that your website is going to rank well, internal linking, that is cross-linking between other pages on your website, is much more important than linking to external websites. As I said earlier, every time you link to an external website, you're slicing off a little piece of your domain authority and giving it to that website. You want to continue to link to other websites, but they're not going to help your website rank quite as much as interlinking. But that said, interlinking is not nearly as beneficial as somebody else linking to you. I would use interlinking not as my main SEO strategy, but as something that could possibly help me if used in moderation. So if I was on Buuteeq and I had a Buuteeq website, I would log into the back office and I would go to every article page and I would say, okay, what is a creative way in this particular article that I can link to another one of my articles? And I would make one or two, maybe three different interlinks on that page. Then I'd open up a new article and make one or two, maybe three interlinks on that particular page. Not to all the same pages, but really to the primary pages that I want to rank well for. All right. By 500 to 600 words, asks David, do you mean the entire website or individual web pages? I mean individual web pages, not the website. So the home page should be, 500 words or more. Your accommodations page should be around 500 words or more. Those are some of the best ideas. And really, you should be creating articles for this content page. When it comes to your rooms page, those don't necessarily have to have that many words on them because you're not actually trying to make those particular pages rank well. One of your strategies is to create a content gate or a content net using an article builder that will lure people onto your website so they're there, and then from there they can explore your rooms, explore your photos, and go to your reservation engine. All right, Kathleen asks, our domain name is bnbhamiltonhouse.com. Thinking of transitioning to something new. Current is too long and confusing to communicate. We have had it for 13 years. Want something shorter and easier to communicate. Will it hurt or help? You know that better than I do. If you've had a domain name for 13 years, that's a very old domain name, and it could possibly be helping you. If your website is already ranking well for many of the search terms you're trying to rank well for, I would recommend you not change it. When you do change domain names, you kind of enter a world where all bets are off. You don't really know what's going to happen. You have your educated guesses, but you don't really know. Also, if you don't 301 redirect your pages appropriately, things can get a little messy. I would say only change your domain if absolutely necessary. If you've logged into Webmaster Tools and you have a message from Google and they say, we've detected an unnatural link profile on your website, we're now penalizing you. If you see that message and you can't get rid of that message and you can't get rid of the bad backlinks that are pointing to your website, then that's a good reason to do a domain change. If you Google every single keyword you're trying to rank for and your website just doesn't show up, then that might be a good reason to do a domain change. But if you're ranking and you're getting some search traffic and you have a really old domain name, and yeah, it might be long and it might be cumbersome and it might be chock full of keywords, but you're still ranking well, then you might not want to change that. Melody again also asks for the recommended word count. Are you talking about all pages of the site? Yeah, I'm talking about primarily your content gate pages, your articles that are targeting specific keywords. Other pages that are designed mainly for conversion or that are designed to help people make a decision and pick a room, those don't need to have a whole lot of text on them. But your article pages and your home page that are designed to sell your property, those should be fairly long. Alexandra asks, what about Pinterest? Pinterest only showed up in one of the studies that I looked at, and it was one of the least powerful social media websites. However, when it was listed, it did have a very positive correlation to high rankings. If you want to invest some time in Pinterest because you personally like that network or you're getting a lot of traffic from it, then kudos to you. You know, I think that it could definitely do you some good. I personally don't use Pinterest a lot. My wife uses it a lot, and she also uses it for travel. So it's sort of a hit and miss thing for Pinterest, in my opinion. How active should we be on Google Plus? Asks Melody. Only as active as you want to be. I think Google Plus of all the social networks is going to be the number one it's going to be the number one network that's going to help your website rank, primarily because Google owns it and they want you to use it, and they're going to reward you if you use it. That said, if you're not a social media person and you really don't find yourself spending a lot of time on social media, or it's a great stretch for you, or it exerts a lot of time and energy, then it's not. I mean, it's not going to help you by leaps and bounds. I mean, it could definitely help you a little bit, and having an active community on Google Plus is going to be nice for people who use Google Plus. But I don't think it's going to be one of the major things that you could do to help your website rank well. How also do you encourage guest reviews on Google Plus? Asks Melody. I was taking a look at this a few weeks ago, and I was looking at some of the things that correlate to higher ranking Google Plus pages. This happened when Google released the carousel for the knowledge graph, that big black bar at the top that has all the hotels on it. And I took a look at them, and while some of the best ranking ones had a lot of great reviews, there were also a whole bunch of them that had few reviews or not the best reviews. And so I don't really think that reviews on Google Plus correlate to higher rankings. Now, having a whole bunch of great reviews on your Google Plus page is going to be great when guests go there to try and scout your property, because that's going to help them convert. But purely in terms of ranking on Google, I don't think reviews are very important. Someone just says that they just lost the audio connection. Well, I hope you got it back. I'm looking at some of the other questions, and it looks like some of them are, looks like things are still going well. Oh, okay, so it looks like Victoria is saying that it's only showing her own questions. Okay, well, okay, so it looks like I can see all your questions, but you can only see your own. All right. All right, scrolling down, trying to find some more. Thanks, everybody, for your very questions. These are great, great questions. Victoria asks, is linking to Google Maps and TripAdvisor helpful or harmful? It's neither, really. I would categorize it more of a neutral. If anything, it would lean more on the helpful side because you're actually giving your guests information that's useful. Now, I mean, you also have to think about your bottom line. TripAdvisor is great because if you have a whole lot of reviews on TripAdvisor that are showing your property off in the best possible light, then yeah, link to your TripAdvisor page so that they can read all those reviews. And the same with your Google Plus page. Tom asks, thanks, but how different does the content actually have to be, as we want the landing page for each category keyword to serve effectively the same purpose? It still needs to be the home page for the person searching for accommodations Heathrow. Right. No, I completely understand what you're saying. However, when it comes to Google and what they want to see, they're not looking to index 10 different home pages of your website that each target a different keyword. Because if that were the case, then they would just expect 10 different websites from you. So we kind of have to be a little bit strategic and a little smart here. So if we're really wanting unique content on our website to rank for specific keywords other than just hotels in Heathrow. So we want accommodations in Heathrow or whatever. We should really write it in the form of a blog post or an article or an information piece. We're not just selling our product, we're giving them information about the area that they're Googling. But while at the same time giving them information about your property that will encourage them to book. So just because this article page is not a carbon copy of your homepage doesn't mean that you can't write it in such a way that it's still powerful and that it still converts people into purchasing. So then in summary, I would say yes, each one needs to be drastically different from the other one. This was actually an experiment I used when I was a little bit newer to SEO and I was first hired at Buuteeq. I wanted to create landing pages on buuteeq.com that each targeted different hotel types. So I had a landing page for inns, a landing page for lodges, a landing page for cabins. And I basically just wrote one article, copied and pasted it on each page, and then changed the word cabin to lodges, and then lodges to hotel. That was an abysmal failure. It did not help me at all. And so I deleted many of those and I rewrote many of those to be unique articles, and they perform much better. All right, getting close to the end of the webinar here. Let me see how many more questions we have. Kathleen says, we're an 8-room inn. I am one person doing everything. All this marketing drives me nuts. What should I focus on to make the best impact since I must spend my time running the inn? In your case, I wouldn't spend time generating backlinks. I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on Google Plus writing a bunch of messages. I would spend the primary majority of my time running my inn, and then in the evenings when I have an hour to spare, sit down with a glass of wine and then write on my website. I would write a nice article, and I would be a little strategic. I would go to Google's keyword tool and I'd make sure that the keywords that I'm optimizing for are actual keywords people are using to find my property. And then I'd go to the article editor and I'd just write. I'd write a story, I'd write a nice review, I'd write a tour guide, I'd write something that's interesting that targets those keywords, and then maybe over the span of a week or two I finish one article, I publish it, and then I move on to the next article, the article that I'm creating to target specific content. That's what I would spend my time on if I was so limited on time that I couldn't actually form relationships and partnerships that'll gain me backlinks. Because after all, Google can't rank your website if there's nothing on your website to rank. Ellie Kelly says, is it important to have keywords optimized for every single page? No, it's only important to have particular pages optimized for certain keywords you want to rank for. So for example, your booking engine is its own unique page, but you don't really need to have that optimized for keywords since it's more of a conversion piece. It's not there. So I would consider website content, I would designate it into two areas. You have the nets that you cast into the sea of SEO to pull people to your website, and then you have the conversion engine, which isn't designed to get people there, but it's designed to process their transaction after they've already gotten there. That could be your booking engine, that could be your photos page, that could be your rooms page. Those don't necessarily need to be optimized for keywords, but you should definitely have content that is optimized for keywords. Oh my goodness, great, horrible but great question. Alexandra says, what should you do if a third-party company has purchased your hotel's domain name before the B&B was established and they want to charge you $3,000 for ownership of it? I would thumb my noses in their faces. There are so many other domain names that you can have. Now, they may have an excellent domain name, but very few domain names are going to be worth $3,000. But then again, I am coming from my perspective, where $3,000 is a whole lot of money to me. If your property is making buku bucks and you've got the money to spare and it's an excellent domain name and you really can't think of one that could be better than that, then sure, go ahead and buy it. But the thing is that there's no guarantee that the domain name you're going to buy is going to make your website rank higher. I mean, there is the domain consideration section of this presentation, which you should definitely take into account, but we really don't know how well that domain is going to rank until we actively try to rank it. I would say that if you're buying a new domain name, think about the domain name consideration section while you're making the purchase, but once you've purchased it, unless it's really horrible and it's like 14 characters, once you've purchased it, just own it. Just go with it. Make that your domain name, work around it, make that domain name rank well. How important is YouTube to social media ranking, asks Ellie. I don't think I saw it in the result. You're right. It's not a very good result for making a website rank. So when I mentioned social media, I was talking solely about the social media votes that can help your website rank. Now, since YouTube doesn't actually have a social media vote component of it that can integrate with your website, it wasn't included. However, YouTube is an excellent social network for ranking videos. If you can produce videos, I would use YouTube all the time because YouTube is basically the world's second largest search engine. Google is the first largest search engine. YouTube is the second. If you can create short, pithy videos, put them up on YouTube, optimize the YouTube page for SEO so that that particular video will rank well, and then put links back to your website from that video, that's probably a really good strategy. David said, I thought your presentation said that Google Plus now is very, very important. It is very, very important. Now, when we're talking about social votes, the Google Plus One button, which is integrated with your website, is the thing that correlates very well to a high ranking on Google. Now, that Plus One button is far different from your Google Plus Business page. Your Google Plus Business page is a good thing to have. You need to have it, and you need to optimize it with photos and with descriptions and linking back to your profile. But the question I answered earlier was, how important is it to actively go onto my Google Plus Business page and constantly post messages? It's really only important if you have a community there that will respond to your messages. Your website is still going to rank well if you just have the page. Well, if you have the page and it's integrated with your website, you're going to rank well for the carousel at the top of the Google SERP. And if you have the Plus One button integrated with your website, that's really going to help your website rank well. All right, 2 more questions and then this will end. Does the carousel dilute click-throughs if you were previously the #1 search result in organic search because you are now ranked alongside lots of other photos in one level horizontal field? Yes and no. So it's still true that photos, so for the carousel at the top, he's talking about that new black bar that appears at the top of the Google search engine result page. It lists a dozen or so different hotels there. Now the hotel to the far left is going to be the one that people click on the most. That now is now akin to the #1 Google result that used to be. So the closer you are to the left, the more clicks you're going to get. But that said, since computer screens are wider than they are taller, there are going to be many more places for eyes to fall upon Google Plus pages. So even if you're not #1, you're still going to get more clicks than if the carousel didn't exist. Now, if you were #1, you might lose some of your clicks to some of the other places because those are going to be more prominent now. People are going to be able to see them better. Whereas before, it took a lot more effort and energy for people to scroll down the page and see all of the other properties that are listed in the local block. Now it's far easier for them. So if you were #1, you might lose a little bit of traffic. But if you weren't #1, you're probably going to gain a bit more traffic. Final question, this is from David. He asks, where do articles get placed besides the blog? I feel I'm maxed out on the pages within my articles. So I don't know what CMS you're using, but the nice thing about the majority of CMSs out there is you can have as many posts for your blog or as many pages for your website as you want. I know that with buuteeq's Cloud DMS, you can have as many pages as you want, and there really is no limit. If you feel like in terms of content, your website is just really heavy, there's a whole lot of content there, then it is quite possible that you've really written all the content you need, and it's just a matter of optimizing the content you currently have for a more focused set of keywords or for better keywords. So if you feel like you've produced all the content you need to, then I would just go through each of the articles that you have written and then optimize those better. Do your keyword research again, see if those keywords are still ranking well, see if you've found new keywords that you want to replace the old ones with, or if you want to add some more phrases to your article. That's what I would do. But in terms of whether or not there's a limit to articles, there is really no limit to articles. You can have as many as you want. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for coming to this particular webinar. I had a great time. I'm going to go ahead and post a video to this webinar online. It'll probably be live later today, maybe tomorrow, so that all of you can watch it. And then, of course, I'm going to send a PDF file of this presentation to all of you who came so that you can have it for your own personal reference. Be sure to subscribe to the blog. I'm posting a lot of great things on the blog, so make sure that you're subscribed. And I already have most of you on my email list. I send you weekly emails as part of my drip campaign that I think you'll find very informative. So thank you all for continuing to stay with that particular email list. Anyway, thanks again for coming, and I will see you all next time.